Hey, for those of you not in the know, I started uploading anime videos. I'm gonna try to do like one anime video and then one gaming video. Here's a preview.
Man, you're crazy if you think so. Crazy, I was crazy once. You know who else was crazy? Crazy Dave from Plants vs. Zombies. Plants vs. Zombies and Sunflower. The Sunflower's kinda high, do you think?
Incredible. Alright, back to the video. People will look at you dead in the eyes and tell you that Hollow Knight helped deliver their baby. People will look at you dead in the eyes and tell you that Hollow Knight is the reason their Shaboing Boy increased in size a whole 7 inches. People will look at you dead in the eyes and tell you that Hollow Knight is one of the most important games of the last decade. And I am here to tell you that all of that is absolutely factual, especially the baby delivery. 2020 was a record-breaking time for the game. You can call it glaze all you want. The reality of the situation is that Hollow Knight is one of the best indie games of all time. There is a recent Team Cherry announcing that Silksong comes out this week, resulted in their aura delaying countless games by weeks and even months because the competition is literally one of the most critically acclaimed games of the last decade. Hollow Knight has had 8 years to build its legacy and the hype behind Silksong, a game which is currently the most wishlisted game on Steam and whose hype alone caused the game to sell like an additional 10 million copies. This shit is insane actually. And as the hype got louder and louder, the first thing that came to my mind is, Hollow Knight still as good as we claim it all to be? The answer is yes, by the way. I don't even know why you bothered to click on this video. Now, before we start talking about the game and the part that makes you cream, we have to go to the part that makes you sleep. Because the beginning of the game is by far the weakest part of the whole package. The beginning of the game feels a lot like sitting down and opening a newspaper just for it to tell me to figure it out. After being shown a cutscene briefly showing you what's sort of happening, but not really, the game quickly throws you into the world and allows you to start doing stuff. Well, the introduction of the game isn't bad. It is the portion of the game that I definitely don't get excited about revisiting. Replaying it now, I can see how well Team Cherry guides the player towards the points that will allow you to progress the story via the usage of signs, obstacles that block you from going to other places, and other things, but the biggest issue for me is quite simply the lack of movement options. Or any options. Like, the Knight's basic ass moves aren't bad. It's not like he isn't fun to control, right? But it feels a little too basic, and it takes a while for him to start putting on the sauce. From the moment you start the game up until the moment you finish the first Hornet battle, Hollow Knight is at its most uninteresting gameplay wise. And for me, that portion of the game doesn't even take like 30 minutes anymore. Because I like 100 hours of gameplay will do that to you, hopefully. Like, if I was still bad after 100 hours, I would just, you know what? Nuke him up to Malaysia. For a new player, however, that could be a good couple of hours before they start getting upgrades that make the game more interesting to engage with on a mechanical level. But, once you get the dash upgrade, Hollow Knight truly cements itself as one of, if not the best, Metroidvania of all time. Hollow Knight is not revolutionary in the sense that, to my knowledge, it does nothing new. Throwing shit at people you haven't seen how I was acting in '98. Hollow Knight is a game that takes many of its core mechanics from other experiences and makes those its own. And while that means that the game isn't something that introduces something new to the table, what Hollow Knight does is remix all of the things that it grabs and polishes them to absolute perfection, quite frankly in a much better way than any other Metroidvania, with the exception of like the Metroid series. To backtrack a little, and for those not in the know, Metroidvanias are games centered around the idea of exploring huge worlds, often like a puzzle piece or escape room in which you find things that won't be accessible at the moment and require other keys you will find across the map to unlock. More often than not, the path is gonna be quite the linear one, although certain games give you more choice as to what things to tackle when. Hollow Knight follows this very same structure, but personally I believe it does the best job with progression out of any of the Metroidvanias I've played. Going back to Hornet, as soon as you unlock the dash, your options for traversing the world open up just a little while still mostly guiding the player down a certain path, allowing the player to catch glimpses of other areas of interest that still require extra keys to fully unlock. Once you take the time to travel to the Mantis Village and take the wall jump though, the game suddenly opens up and allows the player to explore most of the areas that caught their interest along the way. From memory alone, after obtaining the wall jump, you can go down and fight the Mantis Lords, opening one of the ways to Deepness, which has a trampoline pass, or go into the other path that leads to the City of Tears, and subsequently getting to the Kingdom's Edge, the Ancient Basin, and getting the double jump. Hell, if you play out of your mind, you can easily start the endgame quest before even getting to the movement abilities. The freedom in the game is honestly staggering. Is this game not the GOAT? I was listening to some friends give little updates to how far they got in the game, and they occasionally mention shit that I wouldn't do until later in the game, or inversely mention shit that I normally do as soon as possible, and it surprises me because my brain is small, my imagination is smaller, another part of my body is the smallest, and I just never imagined that you could just do that. Exploration in Hollow Knight is arguably the best of the Metroidvania genre, because it manages to create a game in which no move feels too early or too late. Most of the time when you go exploring an area, you will leave the area with a lot of progress, which is very hard for a game of this nature to do. Again, with the example of Metroid, even those games have moments in which it feels like the pacing and progression slows down as you're just trying to find what area will allow you to progress to the next point of the story. That's just what happens with games that require the player to explore throughout the world. But Hollow Knight's world is so well designed that never does this quirk of the genre feel like a major issue. The map is honestly fucking genius in its design. Nothing of what I mentioned before would be possible without the fucking fantastic level design at hand. I already mentioned how well the developers subtly guide the player with science and shit like that. But more than that, and let me move to a different topic. More than the literal science, the artistic design of the world is also a huge factor. The environments of the world are vastly distinct. From the backgrounds to the primary colors, I can tell that I am here, that I am there, and that I am gonna die. Please help. This area was already scary as hell with how dark it is, and you have the audacity to have little spider bastards run in the foreground? I damn near burnt my TV down in the house with it. The game honestly looks incredible. If you ask me, it is a top 5 indie game in terms of its visual style. I've been lacing around my room trying to think of the right words to describe exactly why I like the game's visuals. You know, instead of simply saying that the graphics make me eloquent in the arts of speaking absolute nonsense and scaring every female in a citywide radius. Clearly I couldn't come up with anything actually interesting to say, but I wanted to be known that the effort was made, the game looks pretty, moving on. Now you would think that the same thing would apply to the music, since I often dedicate 3 lines of text to the music at best. But I actually do have a bit more to say than the music simply sounding good, which it does. The music sounds very good, the music is fucking incredible. Hollow Knight is already a very atmospheric game. The visuals already communicate the feeling pretty well, as many of the environments already exude a certain feeling while exploring them, but the game fully manages to sell the feeling through the music. And again, this idea isn't new. Hollow Knight is not doing something unseen before, but its execution is so masterful that it almost feels groundbreaking as a result. When music such as the one from Hollow Knight can be so good at being calming, alarming, hauntingly beautiful, quiet, and a sign of my demise. Like, what else do you want me to say? It's a banger! Out of everything that I've mentioned though, 8 years later, beyond the exploration, beyond the story and the music and the graphics, my favorite part probably has to be the bosses and the difficulty of the game. The game is unapologetically difficult. It borrows greatly from the Soul series in this aspect. Dying means robbery, so go grave digging to get your money back, because otherwise you are fucked! The world is harsh and the bosses are even harsher, especially on the first playthrough. I was getting washed so much during that first experience, my entire fucking house was impeccable, motherfucker. They started calling me Mr. Clean. Fast attack patterns and attacks that are challenging to avoid both combine to make some of the hardest bosses in modern gaming, as well as some of the best bosses in modern gaming. Oh my god! Bosses are dynamic, they are challenging, but more than that, most, if not all of them, let's go back, most of them are incredibly fair. And after a couple like tries dying, unless you're god at the game, maybe you are, I don't know, I certainly was not, you are gonna start getting the download, and you're gonna start trying and trying again, and it's gonna feel great because the game is fun! As preparation for Silksong coming out, obviously, I started playing the Pantheon of Hollowness because I actually never beat it, and every single time that I get to play against these bosses, I realize just how well designed they are, because they are incredibly fun, especially when you get to a point in which you actually master all of their patterns. It all flows like water. It is incredible. The feeling of progression in the Metroidvania and the feeling of progression in the Souls game are often very different, as they both achieve different things through different methods. But I believe that Hollow Knight achieves a really good balance between both worlds, and that makes the game even more satisfying to learn and become good at. getting good at Hollow Knight is honestly an incredible feeling because you get the feeling of satisfaction of mastering so many movement mechanics, so many bosses, mastering basically everything that the game has to offer. You go in there naked and afraid and dying to these fucking bugs, and look at you. Still dying to the bugs because the Radiance is incredibly difficult. When I first started playing Hollow Knight, I believe that my first playthrough with like the true final boss and whatnot took me like, I want to say 30 hours, something like that. When I finished my replay, with 70% of the game completed, by the way, it only took me like 8 hours, less than 8 hours, matter of fact. And I believe just finishing it that fast, it felt fucking incredible because like I knew my skills, I got better at the game, and it felt incredible. This game is incredible. If you couldn't guess and somehow didn't pay attention to what I said basically the entire fucking video, yes, I think that Hollow Knight is still a masterpiece. The worst, most negative thing that I could say the whole video was that the beginning of the game was too slow. That is how you should have known that the glaze was going to be unreal. After playing the game and beating it again, my reaction wasn't, wow, that was a good game, I can't wait for Silksong. Motherfucker, my reaction was more or less along the lines of, how the hell are they gonna surpass Hollow Knight? Like, listen man, like either we match the game or we make the Hollow Knight equivalent to Dark Souls 2. And after 8 years, the slanderous things that I would hear about this game for the next decade would annihilate medieval villages just by being uttered. I'm damn near convinced people are gonna learn witchcraft if the game isn't gonna be Game of the Decade. But regardless of the lofty expectations, I am ready for Silksong to come out. And whether the game can meet all the expectations it's built for nearly a decade, we'll just have to wait and see. Well, that's all the time that I've had for today. I'm just a random stranger you met on the internet, but hey, just call me Pseudo. And that's another video that has been well finished. As I mentioned before, I want to try doing I want to try doing like a gaming video and then an anime video, you know, just like have some variety in the channel just to like make sure that both sides are happy, which I mean I guess by this point it's mostly just like gaming people, but like I think like the anime video about Fragrant Flower that I did recently did pretty well, so I want to try doing a bit more of that, you know. But for like situations like these where like Silksong is coming out, like I'm sorry, I just gotta take priority. I've been waiting for this game for 8 years. Yeah, basically 8 years. Like when this game came out, I was in middle school, right? When this game came out, I was in middle school. That is how long I have been waiting for this game. And I mean, like listen, you'll get the anime video afterwards. But for now, we gotta put our priorities straight. And my priorities is Silksong. So, yeah, see ya.